How does it feel to be useless, son? My mother laughed, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Her voice was sugar wrapped around a knife. My father smirked. My sister filmed a TikTok mid-bite. I looked at the pie I'd brought store-bought, still with its sticker, and said, "Feels great, Mom, because I just stopped paying your rent." The room froze. The ceiling fan hummed like it knew something I didn't. Dad's beer stopped halfway to his mouth. Mom's smile twitched, then cracked. I'd kept every receipt, every transfer, every lie they'd fed me. But what they didn't know was I was finally done feeding them. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by family. Because this isn't just a story about money. It's about the moment you realize love can turn into debt and silence can become a weapon. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. I was 20 when the world taught me that family first can be a trap. Back then, I thought I was building safety. Turns out, I was just building someone else's cushion. When my mom, Linda, got sick the first time, I dropped out of community college halfway through my cybersecurity degree. She called crying from the kitchen floor, said her blood pressure had spiked, said she couldn't stand up. I drove home from class so fast I left my laptop open in the library. By the time I got there, she was fine. "I just needed someone here," she said, wiping fake tears with a tissue. I didn't see the pattern yet. My dad, Mark, was still working as a mechanic back then, always with grease on his nails and resentment in his voice. He believed real men fixed things with their hands. When I told him I wanted to work with computers, he laughed. "You want to sit behind a screen your whole life? Try holding a wrench first." He made it sound like discipline. Really, it was control. My little sister Haley was 16, lazy genius type. She could charm anyone into doing her work. When she wanted gas money, she'd post a sad selfie, wait for mom to comment, "Wish we could help," then text me, "You know I'd pay you back if I could, right?" I'd Venmo her $20 and skip lunch that day. I got my first real job at a grocery store. Parking lot orange, vest, sunburned neck, pushing carts in the heat. I told myself I was helping, that the family needed it. Mom cried the first time I handed her cash for rent. "You're such a good boy," she said. That night she bought takeout for everyone but me because you're watching your weight anyway. I laughed. I didn't realize that was how she trained me to equate sacrifice with affection. Years blurred. Jobs changed. Parking lots became hospital hallways, then downtown lobbies. The one thing that never changed was the phone calls. "You think you could cover the electricity this month? Your dad's back's acting up. Your sister's car, it's making that noise again." Each sentence was a translation. Electricity meant rent. Back pain meant beer money. That noise meant new tires. I started sending money before they even asked, just to avoid the guilt trip. On my night shifts, I'd watch the city lights flicker through tinted glass and tell myself it was temporary, that one day they'd stand on their own feet. But dependency has gravity. Once you start orbiting it, you forget what stillness feels like. Every Thanksgiving, the same scene played out. Mom in her floral apron pretending she'd cooked everything. Dad carving the turkey like a king. Haley scrolling on her phone, waiting to film a clip for her followers. I'd show up with groceries, pies, maybe wine if my paycheck allowed. They never said thank you. They said, "You're doing well, right? You can afford it." I still remember one Christmas vividly. Snow slanted sideways against the windows. The living room smelled like cinnamon candles and disappointment. I gave Dad a tool set, something decent, not cheap. He opened it, looked at me, and said, "You think this makes up for not being around?" I wanted to tell him about my 12-hour shifts, about missing sleep just to keep them warm. Instead, I said, "Yeah, maybe it does." He laughed. I didn't. The first eviction notice came last spring. A red stamp. Final warning. Mom sent a photo with a crying emoji. I left my own rent unpaid for 3 days just to cover theirs. My landlord charged me a $50 late fee. Mom texted me a photo of a casserole with a heart emoji as thanks. That's when I started writing things down. I bought a small notebook from a dollar store, blue cover. Thin pages. On the first page, I wrote one word: boundaries. Then I flipped to page 2 and started listing dates and amounts. $400 Haley's school books. $200 Dad's prescription. $600 Mom's rent shortfall. Each lie a line item. Each entry a bruise I chose to keep quiet about. I didn't know it then, But that notebook would become the one thing that finally saved me. By the time I turned 30, I'd perfected the art of quiet sacrifice. No birthdays, no vacations, just work, overtime, and the hum of fluorescent lights that never went out. The building where I worked had marble floors that echoed like confession halls. Security cameras blinked at me like tired eyes. Every night, I'd walk the lobby checking doors, pretending I was protecting something bigger than myself. In reality, I was just delaying collapse. Mom used to call during my shifts, always at the wrong time. "Why don't you visit more, Ethan?" she'd say, as if I wasn't the one wiring her rent the week before. I'd answer in a whisper, "Because I'm working, Mom." "You act like work's more important than family." Sometimes I'd hang up mid-sentence, just to breathe. Then came the just this once call. July. My first real warning sign. She whispered like it was a secret mission. "Don't tell your father, but we're short this month." Just this once, honey. It was never once. I sent $900 that night. She sent a heart emoji and a picture of lasagna. I stared at it for a full minute before realizing it looked exactly like last month's thank you photo. Same tablecloth, same lighting. She hadn't even cooked. 2 weeks later, Dad texted, "Barbecue this weekend." Family morale. Barbecue meant Ethan buys everything. I showed up with ribs, charcoal, sodas, paper plates. They smiled like hosts greeting a caterer. At the end of the night, I carried the trash out while Mom said they were thinking about getting a new TV. "Our old one flickers," she said, slicing through ribs with the same knife she'd used to cut my patience for years. Haley floated around in floral dresses, posting selfies in front of the food I'd paid for. "Smile, big brother," she said. "You look too serious." "I'm tired," I answered. "Then maybe get a better job," she joked, laughing like it didn't land. One night, around 2 a.m., I checked my email at the desk and saw a message from the utility company. "Thank you for your payment." Only I hadn't made one. I froze. Checked the details. It was my card. My mother's address. I remembered telling her 2 weeks ago, "Mom, don't use my card again." I stared at the screen until my reflection blurred into the monitor. Something in my chest snapped, quiet but final. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I drove home after my shift, sat in my one-bedroom apartment, and watched the dawn light crawl across my wall. The air smelled like burnt coffee and lemon cleaner from my uniform. I opened my notebook, turned to the next page, and wrote in bold letters, "No more rent. No more guilt." Then I shut it because I didn't believe myself yet. October came with a new kind of chill. Leaves burned orange outside, and inside, the last illusion burned out too. I stopped by my parents' place to drop off groceries. A delivery truck pulled up just as I arrived. Two men carried out a large box, flat, rectangular, wrapped in foam. A brand new smart TV. My mother waved from the door like nothing was wrong. It was on sale. She shouted over the driver's cartwheels. I smiled, but my jaw locked so tight it ached. Inside, on the counter, lay the same eviction notice she'd texted me about last week. That night, I drove to a 24-hour bodega. I needed air that didn't smell like lies. The clerk, an older woman with tired eyes, handed me a small potted plant. "Easy to keep," she said. "Thrives on neglect." I didn't know why I bought it. Maybe because I wanted proof that something could survive even when ignored. I put it on my kitchen table and named it later. By Christmas, the ledger in my notebook looked like a crime scene. Red pin everywhere. $200. Haley's emergency. $300 Dad's car battery. $50 Mom's flower shop photos. Each one a small betrayal disguised as love. On Christmas Eve, Dad raised a glass and toasted the provider. Everyone clapped. No one looked at me. They just assumed I'd keep paying, keep smiling, keep existing in the background of their comfort. That's when I felt it, something I hadn't felt in years. Anger, not loud but sharp, like cold metal against skin. I didn't know it then, but the day they bought that new TV was the day I started preparing my exit. By January, my patience had an expiration date. I didn't circle it on the calendar, but I felt it ticking every time my phone buzzed. It started small. Haley texted, "Can you spot me 50 for nails? Work thing. Promise I'll pay you back." Then Mom called. The landlord changed the system again. "Rent's due earlier this month." I asked, "Didn't you say that last month?" She hesitated for half a second too long. "Well, He keeps updating things. I wired the money anyway habit, not kindness. That's the problem with family debt. It doesn't just drain your bank. It drains your spine. A few days later, my landlord, Mr. Kaplan, slipped a note under my door. Late payment again, Ethan. Next time, there'll be a fee increase. My stomach dropped. For a man who spent nights watching empty hallways, I'd never felt more exposed. At work, Pete noticed. You look like you're carrying bricks, man. I am, I said. Then drop a few. Even mules need breaks. He was divorced. I figured he knew something about exhaustion that love disguises as duty. By mid-January, the Cole family group chat the Coles had turned into a digital guilt factory. Haley posted selfies captioned, "Grateful for my family's support." Mom sent chain prayers. Dad forwarded memes about lazy kids. Then came her message, final notice. A photo of the eviction letter, red stamp and all. Mom added, "We can't do this without you, Ethan." I stared at the screen for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could send it. I could save them again. Instead, I typed, "I can't keep doing this." 3 dots appeared. Then Mom's reply, "We didn't raise you to be selfish." Dad followed with a thumbs down emoji. Haley sent a selfie with fake tears and the caption, "Guess I'll live under a bridge now." I muted the chat for a week. At work, nights stretched longer. The new manager, Carla, a short woman with sharp eyes and sharper heels, handed me extra tasks. "You're reliable," she said. Translation, "You'll pick up the slack. No one else wants." It felt familiar. The security desk smelled like burnt coffee and lemon cleaner. Cameras blinked. Elevators groaned. Drunks yelled at shadows and I stayed calm. I always did. But every time I caught my reflection in the monitor, I didn't see calm. I saw someone trained to endure. One night, around 2 a.m., I printed my bank statements. Pages and pages of digital bleeding. Rent transfers. Grocery deliveries. Haley's online purchases labeled Amazon Prime. Camera equipment. I stacked them neatly into a cheap plastic folder and tucked it in my locker. Not as revenge yet, but as evidence I wasn't insane. Then came the second twist. I opened my email one morning and saw, "Thank you for your payment. City Electric." I hadn't paid anything. Again. I checked my card. Same story. She'd used it. Again. I called Mom right away. She answered in her bright, fake tone. "Hey, sweetie, did you use my card?" Silence. Mom. A sigh. "You said you'd help with utilities until we got back on track." That was months ago. "Well," she said, voice turning cold, "you know your father can't work full-time." "I know, but I didn't agree to be your ATM. You think we enjoy this? You think we like begging our own son?" Then she hung up. I sat there in the security booth, fluorescent light buzzing overhead, feeling like I'd been mugged but politely. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Haley borrowed my credit card just to hold concert tickets. She swore she'd cancel the transaction. The next day, I saw charges $240, $84, $19.99 monthly subscription. When I texted her, she replied, "Relax, it's just temporary." I canceled the card. She blocked me for 3 days. By the time February rolled around, my savings had shrunk to 3 digits. My blood pressure buzzed in my ears. That's when Mom called, voice trembling. "Ethan, your father's birthday's coming. Let's all be civil. Okay? Family needs to heal." "Sure," I said. But inside, I knew what was coming. A stage. An audience. A performance titled The Ungrateful Son. I went anyway because closure needs witnesses. That Saturday, I drove over with a store-bought pie again. Their building looked the same: chipped paint, broken mailbox, but the smell inside was different. New plastic and fried chicken grease. The living room gleamed. And there it was, the new smart TV, mounted proudly above the fireplace. My jaw tightened. Mom smiled, pretending not to notice my stare. "Isn't it lovely? We got a deal." I said nothing. I just watched my father tap the screen like a child, discovering fire. That night, while everyone laughed, I saw the envelope on the kitchen counter, the same final notice with the same red stamp. Unpaid. And next to it, the receipt from Amazon. They hadn't even tried to hide it. I excused myself, stepped outside, and called Daniel, my cousin, the only one who'd ever told me the truth. "They're not broke, Ethan. he said. They're comfortable. Because you keep making them comfortable. His voice was calm, but it hit like a slap. You think you're helping, he added, but you're teaching them they can drown you. I stood on the cold porch, staring at the windows, glowing with TV light. My family laughed inside, warm and safe, under a roof I'd unknowingly paid for. Something in me hardened that night. Not anger, clarity. I drove home and opened the blue notebook again. Under the word boundaries, I wrote, next time they ask, say no, then mean it. I didn't know it yet, but that next time was coming faster than I thought. The next time came 3 days later. A Monday morning, gray light leaking through the blinds. I just finished a 12-hour shift when my phone lit up with Haley's name. I hesitated before answering. Every call from her carried a price tag. Hey, big brother. She started in that sing-song tone she used when she wanted something. Mom's freaking out. Internet got cut. She says it's your card on file. Can you just fix it real quick? I sat down on my couch, boots still on. No, Haley. I told her to update it weeks ago. Come on. Dad's losing it. He can't watch his shows. Then he can call the provider and give them his own card. She went quiet for a second. You're really doing this? Over Wi-Fi? It's not about Wi-Fi. Then what's it about? I stared at the ceiling fan, spinning slow, and said, respect. She laughed, short and mean. You sound like one of those self-help podcasts. Then she hung up. 2 hours later, Mom called. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind that always made me nervous. You know, Ethan, I've been thinking, maybe you should come for dinner Sunday. We can talk things through, fix whatever's gotten into you. I almost said no, but guilt is muscle memory. I said yes. That week crawled. At work, Carla noticed my silence. You okay, Cole? Family stuff. Cut them off, or they'll cut you open, she said without looking up from her clipboard. I almost smiled. Sunday came like a test I knew I'd fail. The air outside their apartment smelled like fried oil and something sour. I walked in, pie in hand, the same one I always brought, because tradition sometimes feels like proof of love. Inside, the whole family was gathered. Mom, Dad, Haley, plus 2 aunts, an uncle, and 3 cousins I hadn't seen in years. Balloons said happy birthday, Mark. The smart TV blasted classic rock. Dad clapped me on the back. Glad you made it, son. Family's what matters. I smiled thinly. Yeah, that's what you keep telling me. Mom beamed, holding court at the head of the table. She wore pearls. We're just happy to have everyone together. Ethan's been distant, but maybe tonight he'll remember where he belongs. The room chuckled. Haley rolled her eyes dramatically, as if she'd heard this script before. Dinner was loud. Grease, laughter, beer. Every joke had a barb. Every compliment came with an insult tucked underneath. Still guarding couches, Ethan? Dad asked between bites. Maybe they'll make you head of chairs soon. The table laughed. I laughed, too, just not the same kind of laugh. Mom raised her glass. To family. To loyalty. She turned to me. Say something nice, sweetheart. Your father thinks you're mad at us. The room went quiet. All eyes turned toward me, expecting the dutiful speech, the good son's apology. Instead, I reached into my bag and set the plastic folder on the table. The laughter died like someone had cut the power. What's that? Mom asked. Facts, I said. I opened the folder and slid the first paper across the table. February 3rd, $1,200 rent payment. Next page, March 4th, $900 rent. Next April 2nd, $850 rent. Each line with a memo. For Mom, for utilities, for eviction notice. Haley scoffed. What is this, a PowerPoint? Dad frowned. Why are you showing us bank stuff? Because I'm done pretending I didn't keep you afloat, I said calmly. Mom laughed, brittle and high. Oh, please. You wanted to help. Nobody made you. You're right, I said. I chose to. But you don't get to erase it and rewrite the story. The air thickened. Someone's fork clinked. The TV hummed softly behind us, the only sound brave enough to exist. Dad's face went red. You think you're better than us now? You think you can shame your family? I met his eyes. You asked me to carry you once. I have. For a year. Quietly. You can call me many things, Dad, but useless isn't one of them. Mom slammed her glass down, red wine bleeding across the tablecloth. Congratulations, Ethan. You want a medal for being a son? I want boundaries, I said. Haley leaned forward, voice sharp. You can't just stop, you know? Family doesn't stop. Neither does manipulation, I replied. Maybe one of us should. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was stunned disbelief, like no one had realized I could speak in complete sentences that weren't apologies. Then I pulled the final sheet from the folder, a list of accounts. These are the autopays I've canceled. Internet, phone, streaming. You have until the end of the billing cycle to switch cards. Dad stood up so fast his chair scraped the tile. You don't talk to me like that in my house. I looked at him evenly. It's not your house, Dad. It's mine. I paid the rent. Someone gasped. Maybe one of my aunts. Maybe Haley. It didn't matter. Mom's face drained of color. You what? I set a boundary, I said. Like adults do. Haley lunged for the paper, but I slid it away. You're ruining everything, she yelled. No, I said softly. I'm just ending it. I stood up, tucking the folder under my arm. I love you, I said, but I won't be your bank. The TV played on. Classic rock now turned into background noise for the death of a family illusion. As I walked to the door, Dad's voice shook behind me. You'll regret this. Maybe, I thought, but not tonight. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in, clean and biting. For the first time in years, I felt something close to relief. I didn't slam the door that night. I didn't need to. The silence behind me slammed itself. The hallway outside their apartment smelled of old carpet and bleach. My boots echoed as I walked down the stairs, one heavy step after another, like I was marching out of a war I didn't know I'd been fighting. When I reached my car, my hands finally started shaking. Not fear release. The kind that comes when you stop holding your breath after years underwater. That night, I didn't drive home right away. I parked 2 blocks away and just sat there, watching the glow of their windows. The laughter had stopped. The blinds were half closed. I saw shadows moving, maybe arguing, maybe realizing what I'd really done. I wondered if they understood yet that I hadn't just stopped paying their bills. I'd stopped carrying their stories too. When I got home, I placed the folder on my kitchen table next to the plant named later. Its leaves had curled a little, but it was still alive. That felt important. I poured a glass of water, drank half, gave the rest to the plant. We made it, I whispered. Then the phone started. Missed calls. Texts. Mom, you humiliated us. Dad, man up and fix this. Haley, you're done when I say you're done. I muted them all. The next morning, the group chat exploded. Aunt Carol wrote, we all sacrifice for family. Uncle Joe added, honor thy father and mother. Haley posted, some people forget who raised them. I typed one line. I won't discuss money here. If it's about rent, the answer is no. Then I muted it again. That word no felt heavier than any dollar I'd ever sent. At work that night, everything looked the same. The marble floors, the humming lights, the faint scent of lemon cleaner. But the air around me felt lighter, like the building itself was breathing with me instead of on me. Pete noticed first. You finally slept, didn't you? 8 hours, I said. Miracle. He grinned. Keep whatever you're doing. You look less haunted. By day 3, my landlord emailed me. Your rent processed on time. Thank you. 2 words on time I hadn't seen in months. I read them 3 times before realizing I was smiling. But peace doesn't come free. It demands proof that you mean it. Day 5. My mother called again, whispering like it was a crime. The Wi-Fi's down. Ethan, your father's missing his shows. Call the provider, I said. You think we're rich? I think you're capable. She hung up. That night, Haley posted a tearful video online. Caption, when your own brother cuts you off and calls it boundaries. For 30 seconds, she cried into her phone camera, mascara streaking, dramatic pauses and all. The comments were brutal. One wrote, you're 27. Pay your own bills. Another, imagine crying because you lost your brother's credit card. I didn't comment. I just watched, exhaled, and turned off my phone. A few days later, Mom sent a photo of a letter final notice. Their landlord wanted the full balance by Friday. She followed it with a call. They'll throw us out, Ethan. Onto the street. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the boots by the door. You can sell the TV, I said, or call the church, or work out a payment plan. Her voice hardened. So you want us homeless? I want you responsible. She exhaled through her teeth like I'd betrayed her. You're cold. I learned from the best. She hung up. The guilt came back like an old cough that never heals. It scratched. It itched. It whispered, help them. Fix it. Save them. But I didn't move. That night at work, the doorman Pete leaned over. You ever notice how quiet can be the loudest thing? I nodded. Yeah, I'm living it. By week 2, their services started dropping. Streaming gone. Internet down. Haley's phone disconnected. Then came a photo from Dad standing next to a pawn shop. Caption, hope you're happy. I stared at it until I realized something. He wasn't angry because they were broke. He was angry because they'd finally have to act. Week 3. Mom called again. Her tone was different this time. No guilt. No sugar. Just tired. We sold the TV, she said quietly. We're talking to the church. Your father might take a part-time job at the hardware store. For a long second, neither of us spoke. Then she added, you made your point. I don't like how you did it. But we're doing something. My throat tightened. I wanted to say thank you but didn't. I just said, that's good, Mom. Then hung up before the guilt could crawl back in. That night, I took a different route home. The streets were slick with melted snow, streetlights buzzing like tired bees. I walked into the bodega where I'd bought later. The same old woman looked up. Still alive? She asked. I smiled. Both of us. She chuckled. Told you. It thrives on neglect. When I got home, I noticed a new leaf sprouting. Small, fragile, but green. It looked like forgiveness, only quieter. A week later, Haley texted me a photo of a paycheck. Got full-time at the cafe. Not forever, but for now. I sent a thumbs up. She replied, still think you're dramatic. Then, after a pause, thanks for the budget template. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some things speak for themselves. That night, as I ironed my black shirt for the next shift, Mom's voice floated in my head again. How does it feel to be useless, son? I smiled to myself. It feels great, I thought, because for once, I'm finally useful to me. A few weeks later, I drove past my parents' apartment for the first time since that night. I didn't stop. I just slowed down enough to see through the window. The curtains were half open. Dad sat at the table, filling out what looked like job applications. Mom was on the phone, voice low, serious. No laughter, no TV glow. The silence looked heavier than any debt. For the first time, I didn't feel the pull, the old magnet of obligation. I felt something else instead, distance that didn't hurt. Freedom, maybe, or clarity. At work, Carla pulled me aside. You ever think about training new hires? Me? I said. She nodded. You're steady. They watch how you move. I laughed softly. Funny. No one's ever said that about me before. That night, I found myself giving a rookie guard advice. He was nervous, pacing, biting his nails. The trick isn't being tough, I told him. It's being clear. People respect clear. He nodded like I'd handed him a secret. I realized, in a way, I had. When my shift ended, I sat in the empty lobby, the world outside still dark. My phone buzzed, one new message. From Mom. We're okay. Dad started part-time at the store. Haley's working. I know you think you had to prove something, but we're proud of you. Just wish it didn't take all this. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I locked the phone and slid it into my pocket. Some doors close quietly. You don't need to lock them, they stay shut on their own. At home, the plant later had grown 2 new leaves, bright and stubborn. I touched them gently, like checking a pulse. It was alive, thriving on less. I wrote one final line in my notebook under boundaries. Love them, but never fund their comfort at the cost of your peace. They thought I'd walked away, but really, I'd just walked toward something else myself. And this time, I wasn't coming back empty-handed. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, hit subscribe. This story isn't over. Because setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's recovery. It's the quiet kind of revenge that doesn't destroy anyone, it just reclaims you. I used to think love meant saying yes, even when it hurt. Now I know it means knowing when to stop. So, wherever you're watching from, if someone keeps taking until there's nothing left, remember, silence can be power, and no can save your life. This is Ethan Cole, and for once, my life is finally mine.